Imagine waking up in the morning and realizing that the energy, the strength, and the ease of movement you once had now feel just a little bit further away. It doesn't happen in a single night. It happens gradually, almost silently, as small sparks of inflammation build up inside the body, stiffening your joints, slowing your recovery, and stealing the power from your muscles. But here's the truth. Your strength isn't gone, it's just hidden behind that fire. And nature, in its wisdom, has placed an answer within our reach, not in a pharmacy but in a spice we've known for thousands of years. A spice so simple you can hold it between your fingers, and yet so powerful it can calm those flames, restore balance, and help you move with freedom again. Today, we'll uncover how this ancient remedy can be used with modern science to rebuild strength naturally, so you can feel like your body is working with you, not against you. When we look at the human body, one of the first things we realize is that strength is not just about muscles contracting, it's about the environment those muscles live in. If inflammation is constantly present, it becomes like friction inside the body. Every step, every lift, every movement feels heavier than it really is. And this is where turmeric, and specifically its active compound curcumin, has earned its reputation as the #1 anti-inflammatory spice for supporting muscle recovery and strength. Unlike many compounds that target a single pathway, curcumin is pleiotropic. It acts on multiple inflammatory signaling cascades at once. It reduces the activity of transcription factors like NF-κB, which is often called the master switch for inflammation, and it quiets down cytokines such as TNF-alpha and interleukin-6 that drive muscle soreness and slow repair. By doing so, it doesn't stop the healing process. Your body still repairs microtears after exercise, but it keeps the repair process from turning into prolonged, damaging inflammation. What's fascinating is that this effect has been consistently seen in human studies. People supplementing with curcumin after intense exercise often report less delayed onset muscle soreness, a faster return to baseline strength, and even improved joint comfort. That's not just placebo. Blood tests in these trials show lower levels of oxidative stress markers and inflammatory cytokines, giving us measurable evidence of what people feel subjectively. And when you reduce soreness, you create the opportunity for something crucial: consistency. Anyone who has tried to build strength knows that the biggest barrier is not one workout, it's showing up day after day. Curcumin doesn't make you stronger in isolation, but it lowers the barriers that keep you from training regularly, which is the real engine of strength. Now, you might ask, what about other spices like ginger, cinnamon, or cloves? They certainly have anti-inflammatory properties, and some even improve circulation or blood sugar regulation. But turmeric stands apart because of the sheer amount of research dedicated to curcumin. It's been studied in athletes, in older adults with joint discomfort, in people struggling with chronic inflammation, and across each of those populations, we see trends pointing in the same direction: reduced inflammation, improved comfort, better recovery. That body of evidence is what makes turmeric the most reliable daily spice for this purpose. Think of it this way: if your muscles are the engine, then turmeric is not the fuel. It's the oil that reduces friction. Without it, the engine still runs, but it wears down faster, overheats more easily, and struggles under load. With it, the engine runs smoother, lasts longer, and allows the fuel and the mechanics to do their best work. That's the role turmeric plays in the pursuit of strength and recovery. When we talk about strength, most people immediately think of lifting heavier weights or building bigger muscles. But underneath that visible strength is a cellular story that's either helping you move forward or quietly holding you back. Inflammation is at the center of that story. When you exercise, you create tiny tears in your muscle fibers. That's normal, and in fact, it's necessary for growth. Your immune system rushes in, cleans up the damage, and signals your body to rebuild stronger tissue. The problem arises when this process doesn't shut off, when inflammation lingers and begins to smolder day after day. Instead of being a short, controlled flame that remodels muscle, it becomes a fire that slowly weakens your strength. At the molecular level, chronic inflammation flips on genetic switches that suppress protein synthesis, the very process that builds muscle. It activates pathways like NF-THIF that drive up inflammatory cytokines, messengers such as TNF-alpha and interleukin-6, which don't just make you sore, they interfere with muscle's ability to repair and generate force. Over time, this persistent state means your recovery window gets longer, your muscles respond less to training, and you feel weaker even if you're doing the same work. Many people mistake this for just getting older, but in reality, it's often inflammation working against them at a microscopic level. This is where curcumin comes in. What makes curcumin so remarkable is that it doesn't act like a blunt instrument. It doesn't turn off inflammation entirely, which would actually be harmful because we need that short burst of repair. Instead, it acts more like a regulator. It dampens excessive signals from NF-THIF, reduces oxidative stress, and lowers circulating cytokines when they rise too high. It keeps the flame in the zone where muscle recovery thrives without letting it spread into the kind of chronic fire that erodes strength. Research has shown that curcumin supplementation can lower markers of muscle damage like creatine kinase, reduce oxidative stress molecules, and improve recovery time after exercise. That's direct biochemical evidence that the muscles are operating in a less hostile environment. Imagine your muscle fibers as a construction site. Inflammation is the team that comes in after a storm to clean up debris and start repairs. But if that crew never leaves and keeps hammering and tearing things down, the building never gets finished. Curcumin, in this analogy, is the foreman who tells the crew when the work is enough, allowing construction to move forward. This balance is the key to maintaining strength, and it's why calming inflammation at the molecular level can make such a dramatic difference in how your muscles perform and recover. One of the biggest frustrations people have with turmeric is this: they hear about all of its incredible benefits, they sprinkle a little on their food, and after weeks they say, "I don't feel any different." And that's because curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is notoriously difficult for the body to absorb. You can take in large amounts, but only a tiny fraction actually makes it into your bloodstream where it can do its work. So, if we're serious about using turmeric as an anti-inflammatory tool for muscle recovery and strength, we need to talk about bioavailability, the science of getting curcumin into your system in forms that your cells can actually use. The first and simplest hack is black pepper. Inside black pepper is a compound called piperine, and when taken together with curcumin, it dramatically improves absorption. Some studies suggest it can increase curcumin's bioavailability by as much as 20-fold. That doesn't mean you need a mountain of pepper. Even a small pinch paired with turmeric in a meal can make a meaningful difference. This is why traditional recipes like curry blends or golden milk combine the two. Long before science explained the mechanism, tradition had already worked it out. The second strategy is fat. Curcumin is fat-soluble, which means it dissolves, and is carried more effectively in the presence of dietary fats. Think of it like oil paint. It blends into a rich medium when mixed with oil, but clumps and disappears in water. If you're stirring turmeric into rice or vegetables, cooking it with olive oil, coconut milk, or ghee doesn't just add flavor, it creates a delivery system for absorption. This is one reason why cultures that use turmeric in curries or stews, often cooked in oils, may actually be optimizing absorption without realizing it. The third pathway is modern formulations. Scientists have developed enhanced curcumin supplements, things like phytosome complexes, liposomal curcumin, and nanoparticle versions, that are designed to get through the digestive system intact and into circulation more efficiently. These aren't necessary for everyone, but for people with higher inflammation, joint pain, or who are looking for a more targeted effect, they can be very effective. Some of these forms show blood levels of curcumin many times higher than plain turmeric powder ever could. The key point is that turmeric works best when we respect the way the body absorbs it. A spice without a delivery system is like having medicine sealed in a bottle. You own it, but it never reaches you. By pairing turmeric with pepper, with fat, or with enhanced formulations, you unlock its full potential and give your muscles the anti-inflammatory support they actually need. When we move from the theory of curcumin to the reality of how it performs in people, the picture becomes much clearer. One of the most consistent findings is its effect on delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, the stiffness and pain that often sets in a day or two after a hard workout. Several controlled studies have shown that athletes who took curcumin before and after exercise reported less soreness and recovered strength faster compared to those who didn't. Blood tests from these trials showed reductions in markers of muscle damage, like creatine kinase and lower oxidative stress, which tells us this isn't just a placebo effect. There are biochemical fingerprints that match what people feel. Joint comfort is another area where curcumin has been studied extensively in people with knee or hip discomfort, often related to osteoarthritis. Curcumin has shown pain relief comparable to certain non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, but with fewer digestive side effects. And while that's important for clinical medicine, it's just as important for everyday people who want to stay active. If your joints hurt, you stop moving, and once you stop moving, your muscles begin to weaken. Curcumin's ability to ease joint discomfort means more people can continue to train, to walk, to climb stairs, and that mobility is directly tied to preserving strength over time. Where the research is especially interesting is in older adults at risk of muscle loss or sarcopenia. Early studies, along with some animal research, suggest curcumin might help preserve muscle mass and function by reducing chronic low-grade inflammation and supporting mitochondrial health inside muscle cells. This is an area where the evidence is still developing, but the mechanisms make sense. Chronic inflammation is one of the drivers of age-related muscle decline, so calming that inflammation could help preserve strength as we age. It's important to point out that while these findings are encouraging, curcumin is not a replacement for exercise or protein intake. No spice, no supplement, no single compound can substitute for those fundamentals. What curcumin does is create a friendlier environment for recovery and consistency. It reduces the barriers, pain, soreness, stiffness that often derail progress. That's where its real-world value lies. By lowering those barriers, it helps people show up again and again, whether that's in the gym, on a walk, or simply in the daily movements of life. And that consistency is the foundation of real lasting strength. The real power of turmeric isn't found in a headline or a supplement label, it's in the way you build it into your daily routine. Let's start with food. Turmeric works beautifully in simple meals. 1/2 to 1 teaspoon stirred into scrambled eggs, blended into a smoothie with yogurt or nut butter, or cooked into lentils, soups, or rice with a touch of olive oil or ghee can transform it from a spice into a daily therapy. Adding just a pinch of black pepper makes a big difference because of that piperine effect we discussed. One of the most enjoyable ways to use it is golden milk, a warm drink made with dairy or plant-based milk, turmeric, pepper, and sometimes ginger or cinnamon. That combination not only supports absorption but also creates a calming evening ritual. On training days, timing can add another layer of benefit. Several studies gave curcumin before and after workouts, and people reported less soreness and quicker recovery. You don't need to obsess about the clock, but including turmeric in a meal 1 to 2 hours before exercise and again later in the day is a practical way to align with how it's been studied. Think of a pre-training lunch of chicken and vegetables with turmeric-seasoned rice, and then a post-training dinner with a turmeric soup or curry. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. Supplements can be helpful when food alone doesn't feel like enough, especially if you're dealing with joint pain or higher levels of inflammation. Most research uses around 500 to 1,000 milligrams of curcumin extract daily, sometimes divided into 2 doses, often combined with a small amount of piperine or delivered in an enhanced absorption form. That could be a phytosome formulation, a liposomal capsule, or another design meant to get more curcumin into circulation. If you choose this route, start on the lower end and see how your body responds. Finally, think about stacking smartly. Turmeric isn't a substitute for training, it's a partner to it. Pair it with resistance exercise 2 to 4 times a week, and with enough high-quality protein in your diet. That combination, protein for the raw materials, training for the stimulus, turmeric for the anti-inflammatory environment, creates a system where strength can be rebuilt and maintained. Too often people look for a magic pill. In reality, it's the synergy of these habits that produces the results. By anchoring turmeric into meals, respecting timing, using supplements if needed, and aligning it with movement and nutrition, you build a protocol that is practical, sustainable, and effective. Whenever we talk about natural compounds, especially ones as well studied as turmeric, it's easy to assume that because it comes from a spice rack, it's completely safe for everyone at every dose. But safety is about context, and turmeric is no different. At the level you might add to food, a teaspoon in a curry, a sprinkle on vegetables, or a pinch in a smoothie, most people tolerate it very well. In fact, cultures have used it this way for centuries without issues. Where caution is needed is when we move from food-level use into concentrated extracts and supplements, because that's when the dose of curcumin becomes much higher than what you would normally get from diet alone. One of the main considerations is its effect on blood clotting. Curcumin has mild anticoagulant properties, which means it can thin the blood slightly. On its own, that's rarely an issue, but for someone already taking blood thinners like warfarin or even daily aspirin, the combination could increase bleeding risk. That's why anyone on these medications should speak with their physician before adding high-dose turmeric or curcumin supplements. The same applies if you have surgery scheduled, since excessive bleeding is a concern. Another group that should be careful is people with gallbladder disease or bile duct obstruction, since turmeric can stimulate bile flow and may aggravate symptoms. Those with reflux or sensitive stomachs may notice digestive discomfort at high doses as well, sometimes nausea, bloating, or loose stools. Pregnant and nursing women are generally advised to avoid high-dose curcumin supplements too, not because food-level use is harmful, but because concentrated forms haven't been studied enough in these populations. Medication interactions go beyond blood thinners. Curcumin may affect blood sugar control in people taking diabetes medications, and there's some evidence it could interfere with certain chemotherapy agents or immunosuppressive drugs. Again, that doesn't mean turmeric is unsafe. It means you need to be aware of what else you're taking and discuss it with your healthcare. In terms of long-term use, the safest strategy is moderation and cycles. Food-level turmeric can be enjoyed daily without worry. Supplements, on the other hand, might be best used in periods, 8 to 12 weeks of consistent use, followed by reassessment to see if the benefits are still needed. Choosing products that are third-party tested for purity and strength adds another layer of safety. Ultimately, turmeric should be seen as a supportive tool, not a free pass to abandon medical guidance. By respecting dosage, considering your personal health situation, and using it alongside, not instead of, healthy lifestyle practices, turmeric can be used responsibly for the long haul.